Hello, I'm back. This is the Seekers Reset channel. I don't have a very good connection. I can see that there is latency. I'm sorry about that. Um, Hopefully, it will improve. I have difficulty recording because the Wi-Fi in this house is not very good in the spots where I want to record. Um, it's such a frustrating situation that I find myself in. My name, by the way, is Robert. I am the host of this channel, The Seekers Reset. I'm going to be a little bit more like open and vulnerable in this video. And you may not even really enjoy watching it because I can see the latency, but I'm going to record it anyway. I record from the place that I live right now, which is with my parents. This is the house I grew up in. This is the room. This was my room as a child, most of my childhood. And it's so frustrating here. It's such a symbol of my life that, like, literally in this house, I can't find places to record easily. The Wi-Fi doesn't work in the locations that I can set up the devices, like the microphone, and have some privacy. It's such a reflection of something about my own childhood. And today has kind of been that way. The topic for the conversation is what I call sealing moments along the way. The term sealing moment is a really interesting term in how it came into my life. But I'll give you the short definition of it first, and that is that these are moments where we feel like we hit a ceiling because, or more like there's a crash. So we hit against a high and we fall, or we at least have the potential to fall, to crash. And I heard about things like this earlier in my life, even when I was still less on the exact path that I'm on now. There was a book by a man named Gay Hendricks called The Big Leap, which talked about what he called upper limit behavior, which was self-sabotaging behavior that we tend to engage in when things appear to be going well. And then at other times, I heard this saying in spiritual communities that you get what you're ready for, right? So when something comes to you, it's because you're ready for it. It's time to deal with it. And so, like, you might feel like expansive and then suddenly have to deal with something that's very contracting because you're ready for it, quote unquote. Now, I do believe in these things to a point, and this whole episode will be about delving into that a bit further. But the sealing moment itself, the term, came from a very interesting moment in the relationship with the woman with whom the term Seekers Reset emerged. And it occurred one evening. We were staying at a lovely little cottage in like central-ish England, in the area called Derbyshire. And she was studying very hard for a particular test in her own spiritual psychological training, and I was doing my own thing, not exactly like as formally, but we were also planning to go on a trip to Ireland in a day or so. And as she completed her exam and she received incredibly complimentary remarks from the person who assessed her, and as I was sort of like taking care of the things I was taking care of, I remember at the time some things were silly, but like everything seemed to be going pretty well. I remember I was studying Latin on an app, and I felt like I had reached a point where I was like starting to get it. And there were other things too that were going on that were working out. And even the trip to Ireland, like a few things fell in place right at the last second to leave. For instance, they eliminated their mask mandate like a day or two before we were going, and that was wonderful because I was really not looking forward to dealing with a mask mandate because I didn't wear them in general, and I didn't always like dealing with that. Um, and then that night, the night before we were supposed to go to Ireland, and we did go, but literally the ceiling in the bedroom that we were staying in, part of the ceiling collapsed for no apparent reason. There was almost no sign of why it would have happened, other than that it might have been poorly constructed. But um, but it collapsed. It woke us up in the morning at around, I don't know, it was probably around 5 or 6 in the morning, maybe roughly 6, I'm guessing. And in the night prior, we had both kind of experienced this weird energy. Like even though everything seemed to be going well, and even though we were about to go on this trip and things were falling into place, like I recall she didn't really sleep and we didn't connect well, and something was just off. And then the trip itself, which is not something I'll talk about now, wound up being actually a really, really hostile experience between the two of us. We had many, but that was a big one. So we went from this state of feeling like things were clicking and working out, and all of a sudden things were disastrous, like problems left and right. And one of the reasons for this was that the ceiling fell, literally, and it had to be taken care of before we could leave for Ireland. I think we postponed the trip by a day as a result, something like that, so that somebody could come and look at it and start the process of fixing it. So I began referring to things like this as quote unquote ceiling moments, like from this state of feeling expansive, on track, making progress, feeling good, to suddenly things falling apart. Like you hit the ceiling and you drop. And I've become accustomed now in my life to the fact that these moments happen all the time. For those of us who are on a path of growth, real growth, of any kind, actually, it doesn't even have to be spiritual. It could be physical, it could be in terms of, trying to work out and become stronger, it could be academic, it could be professionally, um, it could be in any pursuit that you choose to follow or engage. But ultimately, it's always spiritual in the sense that all things are spiritual. And moreover, I think this particular aspect of what I'm describing is a spiritual phenomenon, in that there's some kind of spiritual mechanism, some law of nature, some law that God created for us, if that is the case, if there is a God who's created laws, which actually almost magnetizes these experiences, like law of attraction, specifically at those kinds of moments, whether it's because quote unquote we're ready for it, or whether it's a challenge and almost like a test. It depends on which way you think the energy is coming from, right? If it's a benevolent energy, it may be an initiatory step that's given to you when you're ready. So you're feeling good, you have energy, you have more energy than usual. Here's the next hurdle. Here's the next challenge. And it's going to sting. Are you ready? Because it's coming. Or you can think of it, and still initiatory in a sense, but it could come from a negative perspective, as in a spirit, an entity, whatever actually exists in that world. I am not an expert on it, but I know that there is something because I've experienced it energetically, and even through other people and through myself. meaning these spirits or entities working through us and sabotaging things. So they might be coming in to sabotage things more explicitly. And it is a test, but it's not coming from a explicitly benevolent place. And how we respond to these things is going to determine how accelerated our progress is. Right? So, and I almost guarantee you that when these moments come, you will feel victimized. You will feel angry. You will feel upset. You will feel like you're being targeted. You will feel like it's not fair. Why can't I just have my celebration? Why can't I just enjoy myself for a little while? Honestly, it sucks. And yet, it seems to be a part of life, and therefore, learning how to manage it and or navigate it, even potentially come to a state of some enjoyment of it as a sign that this is a chance to level up. Well, those things will be necessary if we really want to grow. Because otherwise, we'll find ourselves in cycles that keep repeating themselves. And most people live that way. Sometimes comfortably, somehow. Since people, mostly because they find ways of numbing things. But the less numb you are, the more you will become attuned to this and eventually have the opportunity to recognize it's not personal. It's something in the fabric of reality. And it is, in fact, ultimately a pathway to growth. So for me today, the way that manifested is I had a good day. I've been doing a job totally out of character for me, but I've really enjoyed it. I've been doing a job working in like maintenance and facilities at a farm. And today I did something different for them. I took a trip. I drove their van and picked up products from out east on Long Island. And it was like a quite lovely day overall for me. It was an extra shift. I made a little extra money. I did something new. I felt like in the flow in a lot of ways. I felt somewhat expansive this afternoon, but I also had this sense of unease a lot of the day, which is not uncommon for me. It's very common. And then suddenly a few things crept in, and I was gripped by fear and shame around issues related to my body and my choices in general, and whether I'm doing things right, whether I'm choosing what's true, whether I'm in denial or not in my own life, specifically in this instance, in how it relates to divine truth, which I speak about a lot and which I link to whenever I do these descriptions at the bottom. And I did it today. I link to it. You can check it out. And I wrestle with it mightily. So I was really in this state of feeling shameful, guilty, and fearful that something was wrong with me. I'm not getting it right, etc. And all of that came in after feeling this expansiveness and like things were heading in the right direction. And I was pleased by everything. So I know now that one of the most important things to do when that happens is to feel whatever the emotions are that are coming as much as possible. Today, for me, it was mostly shame, guilt, and fear. I had to feel as much as possible. And I had only a minute, like I didn't have a large capacity for it, but I did what I could, and I'm still doing it now. And now some of it is I know has been a bit repressed, and I feel more pain and like physical pain in my body, in my chest, like the contraction has occurred in my chest, which means that the spaciousness is gone, and that sucks. And now the challenge is how to ride this wave of pain that is there from the contraction. It might interfere with my evening. It might interfere with my sleep, which I hate. It will definitely challenge me to be kind because it produces a lot of anger and frustration when I feel these feelings. So, like, I have a tendency to want to project that, especially on my parents when they're around. Um, so my challenge in these quote unquote sealing moments is one, feel whatever the feelings are that come up in relationship with whatever the particular challenge is. In this case, fears about my body, fears about my looks, shame about my body, shame about my looks, and guilt, shame, and fear about kind of being unlovable and not worthy, and kind of feeling those things in a way I had never felt them before, like different qualities of those feelings that I had never felt before, which is good. It's good that I'm feeling those new qualities. I'm getting a broader spectrum of the feeling of shame, guilt, and fear. It's broadening my emotional capacity. It's broadening my ability to feel. That's very good. Um, and these things always have to be faced. They're inside of me. This is just bringing it to the surface. At least I believe that for the most part. Like, it's hard for me to see many examples of when that's not true. So these things are coming up, and that's another thing that needs to be remembered in moments like this. It's not that something is happening for the first time in my life. It's that I'm experiencing challenges that are evoking feeling states and fears that have always lived inside of me, and now they're coming up. So the more I can allow that to come up, feel it, and release it, or as some would say, bring the feeling or the emotion to a completion, well, then that's going to make it all worth it. So, in short, these are crucial moments on the path of awakening, healing, and quote unquote resetting our lives. And the more we embrace them and feel and allow whatever comes up to come up without projecting it at others or taking it out on anyone, including ourselves, and the less we distract ourselves and the less we numb ourselves, the faster the progress will go. I know that from experience. Even though I have so much further it feels to go, I still know from experience that that has been true throughout this process for me. So I'm speaking not theoretically, but with a significant amount of evidence that this is in fact the case. And so that's the nature of a sealing moment. I hit one today. I hit them regularly, but some are bigger than others. And I think the main thing to remember also is they will always be the most challenging when the most unfamiliar, most difficult emotions emerge as a result of them. The more familiar it is, it'll be easier to deal with. The more unfamiliar or the more difficult the emotional component is, it's going to be much more challenging. And so then give ourselves some kindness and compassion as much as we can, right? If you stay with it for 10 seconds, a minute, a few minutes, that could be a phenomenal victory. In my case today, I stayed with it for probably about 5 minutes, maybe 10. And that was good. That was good. It was really good. Sometimes when everything seems wrong in life, like in the big picture, like because in the background, like I have this constant sense that really everything is fucked up. Like, and I mean, even though I also have this incredibly weird faith in what's going on at the same time, like very often I feel like I'm competing with this constant, like looming sense of doom. So when these moments occur, it's like that pours in as quickly as it can. And I'm experiencing it right now as I speak, this looming sense of doom that like, oh, this is thrown everything off. Now I'm fucked and I won't be able to recover. And I know from experience that that's not the case, but it's still the feeling. And so I'm going to have to deal with that feeling now. And that's the secondary feeling here. That's important. Hopelessness, desperation, etc. So these are sealing moments, as I refer to them, quote unquote, sealing moments. I know that each and every one of you experiences something like it. Embrace them as much as you can bring yourself to embrace them. Experience them as fully as you can bring yourself to experience them. Mine them for what they are really offering. And it's not just a push through experience, like a willpower. I'm just going to ignore this and keep going. This is a feeling, spiritual, belief based experience. You have the chance to deal with repressed and suppressed emotion. You have the chance to deal with the impact of spirits in your life. You have a chance to deal with limiting beliefs that come to the surface in those circumstances. So we have to embrace them. Eventually, we have to embrace them. And the faster we do it, the more quickly we will progress. I'm going to leave it there. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you for listening. My name is Robert. This has been The Seeker's Reset. I'm actually going to do another video right away because I have another topic I'd like to cover. And I think that will be called, I'm not sure. I've got a topic called personal singularity that I'm really eager to talk about. So that might be that one. So maybe I'll see you soon. Take care.